Hey, also another thing I wanted to touch on in terms of things that you might do for the backgrounds, especially I have the scenario set up in a mall. That's a place where there's going to be a lot of stores. You're going to be buying things. If you're like in an actual mall, there are many types of brands and things you would recognize, especially if this person goes. In this scenario, they specifically go into a glasses store. That's why taking the glasses is kind of, a bit of a big deal, because glasses in a glasses store at the mall, if you've ever been in one, those are very expensive because they come from these very high-end, recognizable brands. But as you can see, I've kind of made up the name for the store, Starry Eyes. That's not really the name of any real store. And then, in terms of, I wasn't sure whether or not, copyrighted kind of material or brand names or such was allowed when I started making these background assets, but I figured, just for the sake of simplicity, or just for the sake of not really being a headache for me later, it wouldn't necessarily matter if I made them up. So that is what I chose to do. And here, I've kind of made up, Sass was just like a name I thought of maybe would be a name that suited like a Forever 21 type store. We have Safafre, or whatever it is I made up right here, which obviously is a play on Sephora, except instead of the black and white color scheme, it is black and blue. If we zoom in on the little posters for things being advertised, we have lipstick by Dior, the little accent above it, that's meant to be a play on Dior, and then we have bars, which is as opposed to NARS, which is a popular makeup brand. So that is, kind of what we're working with. And then, of course, we have rural outfitters as opposed to urban outfitters. And if we go into this file, typically, my glasses do have the labels of what brands they are, what fancy, very, high-end popular brands they are. So those would be things like Fendi, Gucci, Valentino, Hugo Boss, did I say Gucci? Well, Gucci, just things like that. So, ooh, okay, where did I go? Yeah, so just to represent brands like that, I, and I did use references for these by, looking at the font, like, these brands use for their logos and things like that, looking at, any, logo symbols, if they had them at all, or if they didn't, or if it was just, font-based. So, I had these little labels, in the background just below these glasses that we have in the background. So we have Fendi, that's a play on, the Fendi, Louboutin, which is a play on Louis Vuitton. We have Guppy here in the background, which is a play on Gucci, and Valentina, as opposed to Valentino. So as you can see, I kept the font color the same as the stage color, and the labels appear to be black, but as you can see, they contrast a bit with the line art. They aren't quite black, they're more, if we color select, they're kind of this very almost black but more of a dark gray, and that was just following the color scheme of, what I saw in glasses stores or high-end stores I went into, because I did go to the mall a little bit to really get a feel kind of for what I was doing. So in terms of making the brands and things, you can really have fun with it. Obviously, if you just have a main brand, Starry Eyes, that was something I could have a simple logo for. It wasn't too ridiculous. But obviously things, you put in the background can be a bit more, perhaps more of direct, kind of parody or inspiration. If they're really on the background, they can be a bit more you know, maybe even funny, but obviously, like, you know, not too funny. This is a simulation, not exactly a laugh riot, but that's just how you can go about handling things like brands or branded material if that's something you're faced with putting in the background or even the forefront of your animation. Just consider, you know, where it is, if it's going to look silly, and definitely don't be afraid of taking, you know, inspiration from any actual brands, because that, of course, that is the aesthetic ultimately you want to emulate, because it is supposed to emulate the real world. So emulating a real brand is, you know, something that could be, you know, valuable to you.